at least 4 Palestinian gunmen killed and many injured in confrontations with IDF troops during a raid in Jenin this morning. There are conflicting reports about some of the number of people killed, but so far the number is 8 as of now. The situation in Jenin is still developing. Palestinian gunmen even shooting down an Israeli drone above the city. Now, Israeli intelligence says that a cell of members from Palestinian Islamic Jihad was planning to carry out an imminent attack, and reports now that Israel has raised the security alert around this city. We're going to bring in I-24 News defense correspondent Jonathan Regev on the phone. Jonathan, reports from Israeli officials that this is going to be seen as an escalation and that they're preparing for that. The factions inside Gaza also will reportedly hold a meeting shortly. Palestinian Islamic Jihad's Al-Quds brigades did say that it was their fighters who were killed. Talk to us about this developing situation on the ground in the West Bank.
Yes, first of all, Handa, we have to say that all the reports coming at this time are from Palestinian sources. As of now, 11 a.m. local time, nothing coming from the Israeli side, not from Israeli officials, not from Israeli army. What we are hearing from the Palestinian side is that there was a very big operation inside the city of Jenin. Palestinian sources, again, only Palestinian sources are speaking of 8 people killed there, coming from various factions. Islamic Jihad are saying some of the men come from their ranks. The Fatah brigades are also saying, Fatah is saying that some other people come from their ranks. And other reports suggest that this operation targeted a cell that was about to engage in a terror attack within Israel, such as the attacks that we saw last March and April. All of the reports coming, as mentioned, from the Palestinian side, speaking of a very large Israeli operation. We've seen Israeli operations in the West Bank practically every night for nearly a year now. But this operation was unprecedented, not only because of the number of casualties that, as it seems, are coming from the Palestinian side, but also the massive amount of Israeli forces coming in. And again, the report suggests that they stopped a cell that was about to embark on a terror action within Israeli territory. We're waiting for information from the Israeli side. As of now, all of the information coming from the Palestinian side.
And Jonathan, reports that the country is preparing for a possible escalation. Talk to us about what the factions meeting inside Gaza could mean. Now, this is all of the factions, Hamas included, with Palestinian Islamic Jihad. What does it mean that they're coming to the table? What are they going to discuss?
They now have to discuss whether this is, in their eyes, an escalation which would demand a response from Gaza. A response from Gaza, of course, coming in the form of rockets into Israel, with everything that this could mean. We saw last August that an arrest of a Palestinian Islamic Jihad official in Jenin led to a crisis there on the Gaza border, and eventually that a 55-hour operation. What could it mean now? Of course, it depends on how the Palestinian factions choose to view it, whether they think this would be reason enough to embark into some kind of major operation with Israel, meaning tens or hundreds of rockets, southern Israel, central Israel. Maybe their response would be just 2 or 3 rockets, or 1 rocket to open areas in southern Israel. This is something that they have to decide. For the Palestinian side, of course, 8 people killed in a massive operation inside Jenin. This is something that's very hard for them to swallow. But of course, if they engage in an operation from Gaza, it comes with a price.
And Jonathan, we're just getting word that the number of Palestinians killed has been raised to 9. That, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Jonathan Regev will be sure to check back in with you for all of the updates on this developing story. Thank you. Let's bring in Dr. Kobi Michael, a senior research fellow at the Institute for National Security Studies and the former Deputy Director General for Israeli Ministry of Strategic Affairs. Thank you so much for being with us. Good morning. Talk to us about what it means for the security alert to be raised in the country.
Good morning. I think that, first of all, we understand that the Palestinian factions and those who even are not affiliated to any official factions in Jenin still have the capacities and the motivation. And the idea that 8 people were killed today, it is an indication to the intensity of the friction in Jenin. And I think that the numbers do play a role in this regard. And as you have just recently reported about the meeting between the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas in the Gaza Strip, I think that it will be reasonable to anticipate to a sort of a response from the Gaza Strip as well, because they cannot remain silent under such circumstances. In this regard, I think that we have to raise the question, what actually has happened in the last 8 or 9 months or so, and if the Israeli strategy in the district of Jenin is still relevant, because if these are the consequences after 8 or 9 months of daily frictions and daily military operations in Jenin itself, I think that we have to ask ourselves the question if it is still effective.
Talk to us about the types of weapons the IDF is using in these raids. Now, the Palestinians were able to shoot down an Israeli drone. Is this drone just for surveillance? Is it a weapons drone? Talk to our audience about the type of weaponry that is used and its purpose.
It is not so complicated to hit a drone, okay? And they did it with their very conventional weapon that they have. But I think that this is not necessarily the most important issue. I think that the most important issue is that now I see that the number increased to 9, okay? Is the number of the Palestinians that were killed. And this is an indication to their motivation, to their capacity, and to the intensity of the friction. And this is the issue that we have to deal with. What actually has happened there? How it comes that after 9 months of daily frictions and operations in Jenin, we still have such a Palestinian capacity, and they still able to resist in a very, I would say, violent manner that led eventually to these consequences.
And talk to us about Israel raising the security alert. What does it mean that they're preparing for a possible escalation militarily? What does that look like?
As far as I understand, Israel and the IDF strategy, I don't think that Israel would like to escalate the situation. I think that they would like to contain the situation. And this is, I think, one of the main reasons for the alert, in order to assure that there are enough forces deployed all over the sensitive areas in order to prevent any sort of escalation or friction, and not to find ourselves in a situation where there is no enough military force in order to tackle the friction, okay? But we have no full control over the developments, and I think that it will not be fully surprising if in some areas the escalations and the frictions will lead to casualties among the Palestinians or among the IDF soldiers. And from there, it is almost a recipe for deterioration.
Dr. Kobi Michael, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Good morning.
And just to update you a little bit, an announcement from the Shin Bet and the IDF spokesperson did say that they did enter the Jenin refugee camp in hopes of arresting 3 wanted individuals. And in response to that arrest raid, those suspects then opened fire and were subsequently neutralized. Now then turned into a larger raid and clashes